If I could be a teacher, I honestly couldn't think of any higher calling. And on April 14th, 1986, I had this unbelievable honor of getting invited into the Oval Office to meet the President of the United States of America, Ronald Reagan, on behalf of all of America's teachers. He'd kept me waiting for over an hour and a half because he was lining up the bombing of Libya, which took place that day. So the first thing I said to him when I finally got into the Oval Office was, I said, "Mr. President, I don't appreciate being kept waiting." That's a lie. And I came into the Oval Office and he held out his hand, just like Mr. Card had held out his. Just like I trust you hold out yours. He said, "I saw you on Good Morning America this morning." That impressed me because I'd read that he didn't get up that early. And then he quoted me. He said, "When you said you don't teach English or speech or world literature, but you said you teach students, you teach kids." He says, "Well, that reminded me of some of those teachers I had when I was growing up." And then he reached into the vest pocket of his coat and he pulled out a piece of his individualized note card stationery, his gold embossed presidential seal, and his name in gold embossed letters across the top of this little note card stationery. And he said, "I came across this poem," he said, "back during my Iowa days." He said it was written by Clark Mollenhoff, who was a journalist for the Des Moines Register. And Mr. Mollenhoff wrote this poem as a tribute to his mother, who retired after 41 years as a country school teacher in a one-room schoolhouse in Iowa. Talk about a legacy, huh? And he said, "Better than anything else I've ever read," he said, "this poem explains just how important all of you are who work with kids. Especially you teachers. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to read it to you." And I said, "Oh, okay, go ahead." You're catching on. And so he held the poem and he looked me right in the eye. Before I share it with you, after I got that poem one day, I was reading some scripture. And I came across this letter of Paul's to the Corinthians. And Paul writes in the second letter, chapter 3, beginning with verse 2. And I'm paraphrasing it, because I'm from Minnesota and Paul was Norwegian too. And he wrote, he says, "Don't you know? Don't you know your life is a letter that everybody is reading?" Just think about that for a minute. I think by far the most valuable lessons that we teach are the lessons we teach when we don't even know we're teaching them. Your life is a letter that everybody else is reading. What do people read when they read the letter of your life? And then Paul goes on, he says, "But your life isn't a letter that's written on a tablet with a pen. It's not that kind of letter. Your life is a letter that's written on the tablet of the human heart." Wow. Your life's a letter written on the tablet of the human heart. And the president held the poem, and he looked me right in the eye. Teachers, you are the molders of their dreams. The gods who build or crush their young beliefs of right and wrong. You are the spark that sets aflame the poet's hand or lights the flame of some great singer's song. You are the God of the young, the very young. You are the guardian of a million dreams. Your every smile or frown can heal or pierce a heart. Yours are 100 lives, 1,000 lives. Yours is the pride of loving them and the sorrow too. Your patient work, your touch, make you the gods of hope who fill their souls with dreams to make those dreams come true. And when he was finished reading it, there were tears streaming down my face. I was embarrassed. But the president looked at me and he saw how moved I was. He got big tears in his eyes. And then when I saw how moved he was, that moved me more. It was a very moving moment. And then he looked at me, he said, well, I wrote this out in kind of a hurry. If you don't mind my chicken scratches, you can have it. His own handwriting. I took it and stared at it. I couldn't believe, improper punctuation. But molders of dreams. That's what y'all are. And we got to reach them to teach them, dear ones. We got to reach them to teach them.